So you want to get into the EV sector and you feel like you've already missed the boat on Tesla. Everyone thought it was going to be Nikola, which would be the next stock, but hey, they're probably facing bankruptcy. What other companies are out there? Combustion engine car manufacturers are basically all going to go bankrupt, right? Well, probably not this one. And by this one, I'm talking about General Motors, GM. Is GM a good buy? Well, let's give GM an STI. So just to be clear, I don't really want to compare Tesla to GM too much, although they're both automotive industry companies, and it's quite hard not to, but there will be some comparisons, and I don't really want to get into which is the better company out of Tesla and GM, because there's arguments for both, but both are going the same route, which is EVs, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But before I get into that, can you do me the kindest of favors by hitting that like button and helping me out with the YouTube algorithm? If you're new here, hit that subscribe and turn on the bell. And if you want to go the extra mile, pardon the car pun, you can join Patreon and get some exclusive benefits and find out when I am buying and selling stocks on that Patreon link in the description. Now, there is many reasons why to look at GM as a potential investment in your portfolio. And I'm going to get onto the biggest news at the very end of this video, so please do stick around for the full length, because I think that, and don't hold me to this, but I genuinely think that GM could potentially, how do I word this? Potentially, there's not really a better word than potentially, overtake Tesla as the biggest EV manufacturer on planet Earth. Okay, I've said it. It's out there, it's a possibility. And I'm going to tell you why. Before we get there, let's go back to the beginning. Now, GM is typically a dividend-paying style stock. Now, what I mean by that is it sort of sticks in a range and it sort of pays you a dividend, and it's a little bit jumpy, but not that much. You know, typically the price is around $30, $40 historically, and you can buy the lows and sell the highs at 40 and, you know, make a couple of bucks here and there. But typically people tend to have GM for their solid dividend. Now, it's no secret that GM is moving into the EV sector, along with a lot of old school car, well, I'm calling them old school, petrol and diesel car companies are moving that way as well. But GM, I genuinely think, has a bit of an edge on the rest of them. And the reason for that is obviously the recent news of investing into Nikola, which is a company since then facing clear bankruptcy. But I think GM got the better end of that stick, and I think they'll probably have a right to a lot of what little information Nikola seems to have. But also, they've also invested heavily into Lordstown Motors. If you don't know who they are, they've got this really cool pickup truck, which is coming out very, very soon. And they are actually going to be listed on the exchange on the Diamond Peak Holdings ticker. Don't know the name of that, but I'll put it on screen now. But the big question is, why is GM investing into EVs now? They're quite late to the party. I mean, it's common knowledge Tesla are already 2 or 3 years ahead of every other car company on planet Earth in regards to EVs. Well, I think that GM's took the quite sensible approach, and that's see if there's any value there. We've seen a lot of oil companies such as BP and Shell buy into wind farms and solar farms quite early on, and then lose a lot of money and then have to rebuy when the technology sort of finalizes and becomes more efficient. And there's this, there's a bit of a saying that you don't want to be the first person at a party. And it comes the same. I mean, if we go back and look at Lancia, whose cars historically, if you know Top Gear, built really, really badly. But Lancia are actually, the creators of very, very first things. I think they, ABS braking was Lancia, but it was pretty rubbish, and then someone else took the idea and advanced it. That's what I'm sort of getting at. If anyone's an automotive geek and Lancia did not make ABS braking, I apologize, please let me know what they did make. I know there's quite a few things Lancia were first to the party on, and now they are sadly no longer with us. Or are they? I don't know if Lancia is still around. But coming back to GM, they know that EVs are probably going to be the future. So they want to sort of diversify and move into that sector. Now, the EV sector, as far as stock market and market cap goes, is becoming one of the biggest sectors on planet Earth. Tesla valuation of near 400 billion is just bonkers. It's literal bonkers. They are worth double their next competitor, Toyota. And actually, I think I read somewhere that they're worth the next 5 competitors combined as far as EV goes. But I know Tesla's not a car company, but they do sell cars. Walmart sells insurance. It's not a bank. But jokes aside, I didn't mean to offend anyone who is a Tesla lover, but they do make cars, okay? Just relax. But like I said, Tesla's market cap is like 350 billion or around 400, depending when this video comes out. It's that fluctuating, the stock price. It's hard to gather, but I assume it'll be between 300 and 400 billion. GM's market cap is only 41 billion. So if GM got to the level that Tesla is today as far as EV goes and renewable energy, then that's, you know, a solid 8x on your money, and some actually. So does that mean in itself, GM, if they pursue this EV route, then they will be worth, well, basically 300 billion? Not necessarily, but there is an argument for it. Now, one of the bigger things that I found in the comments on my Tesla videos and my EV videos and even on my BP oil video is people just think Tesla is one of the few companies moving into EVs, and it's just not the case. All pretty much car companies, Toyota, Nissan, VW, Ford, everyone, they're all moving into EVs as well. Just Tesla is that far ahead and investing heavily into the market. But the big problem you've got there is, again, Tesla is first to the party. Now, I'm not saying Tesla's gonna go bankrupt, because they're definitely not. They've got Elon at the head, and I am a big Elon fan, but I just think that that market share will dwindle down to the other companies eventually, which will take value from Tesla and give value elsewhere. And it's only a matter of time. Tesla keep talking about building these big factories to produce more and more cars. GM already have them set up, they just need to convert them. And that's exactly what GM's been doing. GM already has that $35,000 EV in Chevrolet, which is out there and you can order that right now. Granted, it doesn't look as good as a Tesla, I'll give you that, but it's there, it's cheaper than the Tesla, and it is 35K, and it gives you very, very similar on performance specs. For a family EV, then they're already there. And I'm not saying it's a perfect model. I definitely think Tesla's probably a better car, don't get me wrong on that, but you are paying more for it. So that should be expected, right? And they go further. GM have announced that they're bringing out this car, which this Cadillac, which looks, look at it. I mean, it just looks sexy. Come on, this car, I'm not a big fan of EVs personally for me. I love my old school cars, and I think it'll take a lot of convincing for me to get an EV, but damn, this thing looks hot, right? And I mean, as far as like SUVs and pickups go, Lordstown have a pickup coming, so they are massively coming into the market. There's an Escalade coming in 2025, and there's even talks of a Hummer, an EV Hummer coming. Now, GM has committed to making 20 different electrical vehicles by the end of 2023, which is way more than what Tesla will have by 2023 as far as we know. So you can see that they are pushing that envelope a little bit as well. And there, like I said, there is more news coming at the end on why I think they have a chance of rivaling Tesla as far as the batteries go and things like that. But does all this mean that you should jump into GM now and wait for it to go up 8 times to the same market cap as Tesla? Well, let's have a little breathe and come back to the technical analysis of GM General Motors. Now, like I said, they are only a 41 billion market cap company, which if you look at the EV market share, is quite damn small. If you look at the automotive share, it's quite small as well because of Tesla. Pre-COVID price, like I said, they were in that range of $35 to $40. Middle of COVID, they actually had a huge fall, and they went all the way down to $14. And now they are back riding at around that $30 mark. So again, if you were into that dividend style investing, you can just get in at $30 and try and ride it up. But I'm a value investor, that's not for me. Simply Wall Street even undervalues with all their metrics on GM. They think it's a current 34% undervalued, which is very rare to see a bigger market cap company in the current climate that we've got with this big, massive market overbounce, with a solid company with a solid background being undervalued. It's quite hard to find. So that's quite a big tick in the box for me personally. Now, their PE ratio is not too good, 27, which means you're paying a $27 premium on your dollar. So if you don't know what a PE or a PEG is, then a PE and a PEG, you can check out this video up there. Hopefully I'm pointing in the right corner and you can find out what a PE and a PEG is. But like I said, 27 is not that great, but given the current sector, especially car manufacturers and EVs pushing that up, yeah, maybe it's arguable that it should be a bit lower, but hey, I've seen worse. Tesla's 1,000. And a PEG ratio of 0.9, which is pretty happy days, given the growth of the company and their earnings. I think a PEG ratio is actually pretty solid. Anything close to a 1's pretty good. Short-term assets and liabilities, they have 87 billion in assets and 77 billion in liabilities. So we've got a deficit of 10 billion there, which is nice. And also in long-term assets, they have 150 billion to 116 billion in long-term assets and liabilities. So they're quite well covered as far as that goes. Now, the biggest worry for me is their debt to equity ratio. Now, I said that Tesla's debt to equity ratio is pretty horrific because it's 112%, which means they've got a lot of debt riding. GM, on the other hand, well, that's a different story. They have a horrible debt to equity ratio, which is the reason I haven't bought into GM just yet. Their debt to equity ratio is 291%. Yikes. That said, they do offer a very sweet dividend where everybody is cutting dividends pretty much to nil. They're still paying a nice 2.3%, I think it is, dividend, which is pretty nice. Put something in your back skyrocket. That's Cockney slang for pocket. But 2.3% is pretty good, so you can put that, dividend away, invest it, do whatever you want to do, go buy some ice creams, buy a beer, or join my Patreon in the link in the description. They also have some insider buying, which not that much, to be honest. They bought it pretty much at the lows, which is understandable, someone who wants to get a better average. So if I was also knowing what's going to happen with GM going into EVs a bit earlier, I'd have probably bought some under 20 as well, to be honest. So whoever bought that, well done. Now the big news with GM, which has been out a while and I don't really see it being covered that much, is their Ultium battery cell. Now they are moving into their own batteries, their own everything manufacturing wise, and they want to push it out to all of the lines, Cadillac, Hummer, GMC should I say, and Ford and all these, and they want to sell their battery. And now I know Tesla's talked of that before in the past. The difference is GM already owns a lot of brands, so they can do it very quickly and very easily. Now GM invested $2.2 billion into their historic Detroit plant. And if you don't know, Detroit's Hamtramck assembly plant has made over 4 million cars since 1985. So it's an area of the world that is well known in the car sector. And they've got people who are generationally trained to build cars. So I'm not saying that you can, be a doctor because your dad's a doctor, but what I am saying is historically it is a very, very good place to be if you're a car lover. They're also going to be creating 2,200 jobs, and this will be their first plant dedicated to only EV cars, trucks, whatever else, batteries. So you can see that they're heavily moving in that route as well. Maybe a bit later than Tesla, I'll give you that, but they are moving that route nonetheless. And I think it's a matter of time before their market cap massively increases because of this news. Now, this news did come out a long time ago, and COVID's probably slowed a lot of the works down, I'll give you that. But that said, when this does come off, I think it's going to be very, very good news for GM investors. And LG, if you don't know who they are, then, Google. But LG has also invested heavily into this plant, and that's sort of the joint venture. A bit like Tesla and Panasonic, LG is jumping in with GM. So I genuinely do see GM being probably the bigger rival for Tesla as far as the EV sector goes. Now I know there's a lot of speculation, the bad points and stuff like that, like I said, with the debt to equity, the Nikola scenario, which I think GM will probably come out on top of. And the Lordstown Motors thing I think will be good. Lordstown have a hell of a lot of orders ready, and GM is heavily invested in that. So I think GM sort of going the other route where we'll manufacture the batteries and the car chassis, if you want to call it that, and then we'll ship it out to the said brands and then you sell it. And I think that's the route GM's sort of going to go, rather than Tesla, which is a one-stop shop. You buy an EV car. Now that said, I think Tesla will go that route as well, and then it's going to be a standoff between all the companies that are doing batteries. So that's just my personal opinion. What's your opinion? Let me know in the comments. But for me, GM, I really, really like it. I've actually told the chat room as well earlier this week, so I don't know when this video is coming out, maybe middle of the week. I am interested in any dip in GM towards 26, 27, and I'll start scaling in. We might never get that, but again, I'm a value investor and that's what I do. So only time will tell. What do you think? Is GM a solid competitor to Tesla in the automotive industry? The reason I'm saying automotive is I know a lot of people will be going, oh, Tesla's not a car company. But if you go on NASDAQ's website, Tesla is an automotive manufacturing company. A little bit awkward, that one. As always, please do hit that like button. It massively helps me out. Drop a comment below. Feed a baby by hitting subscribe and turning on the bell. And if you're interested in the chat room, link for it in the description. Check that out. Thanks very much for the support. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.